So for someone completely unfamiliar with the show, and I know we're on the second season now, how would you describe Game of Thrones and how would you describe your character?
Okay, Game of Thrones is a tale about warring families who are after power, revenge. Nobody is who they seem. There's lots of different worlds, and it's how these worlds collide, how they're interconnected. There's old families, new families, young characters, old. Then you have the fantasy element as well. And my character is Catelyn Stark, who is married to Ned Stark, who is in charge of the North, and they live in a castle called Winterfell. She is a mother of 5 children, and she's also a stepmother to Jon Snow, who is known as the Bastard. Can I say that?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. And so she, when you first meet Catelyn, her life looks like she's a normal mother. She's a working mother. She stays at home and looks after the home, and she runs her household. She looks after her children. She makes sure they're educated, they're fed, and they get out and they understand how the world works, about honour. And they go out with their father, because a lot of it's going to be expected of those children when they grow up. They're going to be in a position of power, and they're a very honourable family. They treat the people they work for well, and so they have a strong backbone. And she's also from a noble family herself, who live in the south. So she's moved to the north to marry Ned. So she's not a native of the north, but she has grown to love it. And I don't think she finds it easy, but she loves her family and she loves her husband. And that's the main driving force in her life, her family and her husband.
Speaking of family, Catelyn had a bit of a traumatic first season. You know, her husband is no longer with us. Her son is crippled, her daughters are missing or kidnapped, and then her eldest is leading a war. Where is Cat at the start of the second season?
Right, at the start of season 2, she's a widow and she is grieving, but what is wonderful about the way the guys, David and Dan and Brian and George, have created this character, they don't indulge that grief. She has to keep going, she has to survive, and now she gets focused on the fact that her life is about her children, primarily now. This is it. She wants to sort of like get those wings and grab them and get them back to her bosom, metaphorically. Get them into Winterfell, close those doors, and don't let the rest of the world in ever again. And that's it. I mean, that's in her idealist head. But, you know, in the reality, it's a different world. And she has to keep going. She has to watch her son, who has now been declared King of the North. Now, she doesn't want her son to go into battle. But she knows that he has to learn through mistakes. And the only way he's going to learn is by making mistakes. She can't tell him how to, you know, she can't tell him how to go onto the battlefield and sort of like say, you go from this side and you go from that side. He has to learn. He has other advisors there. She doesn't sit on his war council. Right. So she has to watch her son make mistakes and have wins and have sort of triumphs. But it's a double-edged sword because he's now a man, and you know, in the second series, they sort of come to a bit of a lockerhead as well. So in season 2, he says to Cat, she wants to go back to Winterfell to see Bran and Rickon because she hasn't seen them for ages. She doesn't know anything about anything, what's going on. And Rob said, no, you have to go and be like an envoy for me. I want you to go talk to Renly and Stannis. And I want you to say, join us, and we will go against the Lannisters. And, but unfortunately, Renly meets a demise, and Stannis has been visited by a priestess. So he's under a completely different influence. And so she then goes on this other journey.
So you mentioned some of the new characters like Stannis and the priestess, and there's also Brienne.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about Kat's relationship with these characters. Do you have a favorite out of this new group?
Well,
or?
I mean, if I have to nominate a favourite, it would have to be Brienne, because I have a lot to do with Brienne, which I absolutely loved, who's played by Gwendolyn Christie. And I think what Kat recognises in Brienne is she reminds of Arya. Brienne reminds Kat of Arya. And she sees this girl who wants to be a boy. And also there's an element of unrequited love with Brienne and Stannis. And, no, with Renly, sorry. With Renly. And her loyalty, her sort of like, you know, bare, open-hearted loyalty and love for this man. And she recognises that. She sees that, and that's true. You know, that's an honourable human being. And when she discovers, it is a woman for a start and not a man, she's impressed.
Yeah.
And I think it's just that thing of watching, you know, her brain has just gone, that's Arya, you know. She can see Arya in years to come, you know. And I think she has a real mothering nurture, you know, towards Brienne because of that.
Okay. You also mentioned Renly and his demise.
Yes.
The moment that happens is very, it's, at least in the books, it's a very supernatural, there's a big supernatural element. And there's been a bit of that in the first season.
Yes.
Do you think there's going to be any sort of blowback from just the shift in tone with just the heavier magical elements in the
Well, I think they'll be amazed, actually, because I think they're so poignant when they happen, and they're so real that they're shocking, actually. This is where you know, you think people are, you know, can be evil and dangerous, but these are forces beyond these people, you know, and which you know, cause them, you know, it's like, you know, do you allow yourself to believe that there is this badness, this evil in the world? Do you know, I mean, there's an awful lot going on there anyway, but to add that into the mix as well, and it puts them off on a different journey. Also, it means, how do you battle with this? How do you fight a war against these sort of evil spirits which are conjured up? You know, how do you do this? You know, it's unfair for a start. It's just not cricket, darling. You know what I mean? So, and I find it thrilling, exciting, because it makes the characters real. I mean, it's like we realise ourselves. You know, we are but tiny specks on this massive earth. You know.
Yeah. So talking more about just Kat's relationships with other characters, Jaime Lannister, Nikolai, he's in Rob's camp. He's a captive for most of the season. I mean, you had a great scene at the end of season 1 with him.
Yes.
How does that relationship go in this season, would you say?
Well, I think, I mean, Jaime Lannister, Nikolai, who's lovely. He's such a, you know, I mean, the whole world now knows that, you know, Cersei and Jaime are incestuous, you know, and their children are of their doing, and not Robert's. So there's I mean, Kat really despises him. She absolutely despises him. But I think when there's a turn scene in series 2 where you think she's going to do one thing, but actually she starts thinking like a man. She starts playing a man's game. And you just hope that it works for her, because she's doing it for the right reasons. You really do. And, but not everybody sees it that way. But, I mean, her relationship with Jaime Lannister is one of, he loves to wind her up. You know, it's like, he's right in many ways. You know, she is a she-devil, she is a she-cat. And the fact that he doesn't show fear, Jaime Lannister, either. He doesn't show fear. He doesn't show remorse. You know, and it's like, well, how do you deal with somebody like this? You know, it's, you know, he brings out the worst in her, actually. You know, she despises him so much that he totally gets under her skin. Okay.
So you mentioned Kat making the right decision, which might not be the fans' favorite decision. Yes. Are you aware at all of, like, in the books, there's a little bit of, I don't know, Kat is a very divisive character.
I mean, seriously? I mean, you see, I don't, but no, you see, my job is to do what the guys, you know, David and Dan have, you know, put on the page. That is my job as an actor, is to do that. And I think as a mother and as a character in herself, she's absolutely right in what she does. She acts as she thinks is right for her family, and to get them back together again. So I stand by her 100%.
Are you a reader? Have you read the
Yes.
novels? Okay.
I read the novel per. I started to read them very, very, quickly, and then went, well, I'm getting too far ahead. I'm getting far too far ahead here.
Do you think that can damage your performance somehow?
Yeah, I think sometimes you can have too much information. It can affect how you play something. Absolutely. If you need to know the back history of something, fine. And that's what David and Dan did, and Brian. They gave us a thesaurus of the families, of the lineage, of the family trees, of their sigils, of who they went to fight for, who they were honourable to, and vice versa. So you have all of that back history. But then I don't think there are things that I need to know just yet in order to play Cat the way she is at the present, because a lot of the stuff she doesn't actually know herself. She finds out in the series too.
So there's some major changes up ahead for her. Have the producers informed you about anything?
I can't speak about that.
No, okay.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude, but
no, I understand.
No.
Let's see where we.
You need to ask the guys about that.
Okay, fair enough. We solicited a few questions from online.
Okay.
Just the hardcore fans who really wanted to know.
Well, they hate her, so.
No, it's a very divided crowd.
But you just said they hate her.
No, sorry. So FY Winterfell from Twitter.
Pardon?
FY Winterfell from Twitter would like to know if you have a favorite scene in the series thus far that you've filmed.
Oh, there's so many. I loved the scenes with the family, with the kids. I mean, we really got to feel like we were a proper family, actually. We had so much time in season 1 at Winterfell, so we got to know each other really well. So anytime now that you get, well, you don't actually anymore, that's bullshit. And you can't use that either. So I think, for me, the scenes I enjoy playing the most are with Richard Madden, who plays Rob, my son, because we got to know each other really well in the first season. And so a lot of my stuff is with Richard in the second, and I love it. I trust him implicitly. I admire his work. And I just love working with him. He's a fantastic actor to work with.
But you don't get to see the rest of your TV family very often. They're all spread out.
I know, which is so sad, actually. But she's a woman who lives in hope. She keeps going. Her whole drive is to get her family back. And I think ultimately she believes that. She ultimately believes that, and that's what keeps her going. She's a widow. She's got, she's grieving, but she can't give into that grief, because if she gives into it, she'd collapse. And I think that's what gives her that grief, that energy, because grief is an energy, fuels her forward. That keeps her going. That keeps her on the path. I think if she stops, she'll collapse.
Is it draining at all as an actor?
No, it's wonderful.
No? Okay.
No, though it's like you get stuff like that on a page, and you're just like, wow, thank you, boys, thank you. Because it's fantastic to play. It's big. It's like you're talking big, emotional, powerful stuff here. That matters, and it's a delight. It's an absolute delight.
Do you think Cat is a good character in this universe? It's a very grey place, even morally.
I think she is. Yeah, very. I love her. I really do. And I think the more the series progresses, the more complicated she becomes. And but I think ultimately she comes from a good place, and she wants her family back together again. It's very selfish. I mean, some of the things that she does, she doesn't necessarily see the big picture. She's blinkered, actually, at this point in her life. But I think with what has happened to her, she's got every reason to go, I don't want this world. I just want my little world. That's it. And I'm going to get you all back to Winterfell and lock those doors. And nobody's ever going to leave. Do you know what I mean?
Fair enough.
I think so.